Okay, as we dive into this call, the request to redo or at least share the story that I was sharing the other morning concerning recognizing your value. And yesterday we did a reflection of that, but I do want to go back and finish sharing that story. I had multiple requests for it, and so I promised to make that happen. And I'm just going to dive into it this morning. Didn't necessarily feel the inspiration, but I trust that it'll flow as we move forward. So bear with me a second. The purpose of that call that I had started where we got interrupted was to help us see our own value. Now, not again, and bear with me. I think that's probably why I said some of the things that I did concerning this is an easy call to pick apart and for the critics to enjoy. And it's okay because even them need to understand that they have value, and we all do, regardless of which side of the spectrum that we choose to be on. The spectrum can be large. Let us begin. This has to do with you seeing your own value to a degree. If you don't see your value, you will walk around defeated with your head hanging, shoulders drooping, and, in a fetal position type of appearance that you will give. The neurons no longer are the endorphins aren't bouncing around and all excited about life and what's going to be happening next. Have you ever been around those people that were just dull, disillusioned, everything is wrong, woe is me, Eeyore type of, or I guess it was Pooh Bear type of attitude, and they're no fun to be around. You kind of feel sorry for them, and you'd love to give them a hand, but you really just don't want to be around them. It'd be okay if they just kind of moseyed on out. Because there's nothing inspirational about that. There's no enthusiasm. The core word enthusiasm means God within. I've never seen anybody very enthusiastic about their life and themselves unless they understood who they were. And again, I'm not speaking from an egotistical, arrogant, or proud stance. I'm talking about knowing who you are as a child of God, as a businessman, as a business lady, as a teacher, a coach, a mentor, pastor, trustee, one of the team leaders or an employee or whatever it is, whatever position you hold is important. Whether you sit in the back pew of the church your whole life, you're very important. You are meaningful. You bring something of value. God created you for this time. You would not have been born in this day and age if you hadn't been intended to be here and needed to be here. And we're called to be here at this time. There's a reason for it. Understand that. Scripture says that you were fearfully and wonderfully made. If you believe the Bible to be true, then you realize there's something very beautiful and unique about you. You really have a very important job to do. It's not the person in front of the room always that has the most important job to do. Yes, his job is very important, and he best take it seriously because every word will impact people. And so we don't want to do anything that could possibly mislead anyone. That is, God has a thing for those people. So with that being said, taking a look at who you are, if I was to ask you if you believe the scripture, you would say you would. And if I asked you, do you believe the particular part where it says you were fearfully and wonderfully made, I'm sure without missing a beat, you'd look at me and say you believe it, but there would be some sort of dull glaze over your eyes on that one because there's a part of you that does not believe that. You might believe it, but there's a part of you that says, you don't know me. You don't know the mistakes I've made. You don't know all the bad things I've thought. You don't know the temptations I go through. You don't know the addictions that I'm sometimes tied to. You don't know how weak I feel day in and day out. No, of course I don't know those things. But then again, I do know those things. Now, Al, how would you know that about me? Because you are human. You're a child of God. You are in a world where you're tempted and where you are prodded and where you are tormented by the enemy. Of course I know those things about you. You're in this same world as I am in, and I get hit by that thing every day, and especially when I'm bringing something to serve others. I have a bullseye on my back, and it seems as though every gun in hell is aimed at you. But it's okay. It doesn't stop my calling, nor does it stop my gift, because I don't stop. The only person that will stop me is God himself, and I'm grateful for when that time comes. But let's come back to choosing your own value and sharing the story. The story happened with a young man coming out of school, and he asked his father, which was quite a wise man, maybe not highly educated, but wise man. Reminds me of some of the wisest men that we know of. were the least educated men. Therefore, they had room for wisdom. I don't know why they had more wisdom, but I do know they weren't as educated as some and seemed to have more wisdom. This particular story unfolded with a man and his son, and the son comes home after graduation, and he looks at his father, bright, excited, looking forward to life, looking forward to what's ahead of him, and wanting to choose a career or a job as something to go engage in. And he asks his father, "Father, what is the meaning of life?" His father looks at him thoughtfully for a moment. He just takes time to analyze what the son asked and how he's going to answer that. Then he goes over to his chest and his safe, and he opens it up and he pulls out a rock, really pretty rock. And he hands it to his son and he says, "Take this downtown to the local market and put it on a table and stand there and wait. When someone comes along and is interested in buying it and they ask how much you want for it, don't give him an answer, simply lift 2 fingers." And he did that. He goes to the market. Didn't take very long. An older lady comes along and sees this pretty rock, and she goes, "Oh, how pretty. That's really nice." She goes, "That would go good on my flower bed. How much do you want for it?" Son did as told. He lifted up 2 fingers. And she goes, "Oh, $2? I'll take it." Without missing a beat, the son didn't say a word. He reached out, picked up the rock, and left. Can you imagine what the lady might have felt like? Either direction. He left. He went home. He's excited. Tells him, "I could have sold this rock for $2 this morning." And that's pretty cool because rocks, well, obviously, they're rocks. You can get them all over the place. They're not that valuable. So for this lady to offer $2 was pretty cool. And the father looks at him, thinks for a moment, and slowly tells him, "Now go down to antique store where they kind of have unique items and hand it to the person, the owner, or whoever's behind the counter. If he looks at it and is interested in buying it and asks you how much, just lift up 2 fingers." He takes it to this particular person and his store and walks in, and the guy behind the counter, which was the owner, looks at him curiously, what's this young lad going to want to buy? And in that sense, the young fella just took the rock out of his pocket and laid it on the counter. As he did that, the owner takes a look at the rock, looks at the young boy, looks back down to the rock, reaches out, picks it up, looks at it, says, "Very pretty rock. It's quite unique." He goes, "It's rare. Would you like to sell it? I would like to buy it. How much do you want for it?" Young lad picks up 2 fingers, and the guy looks at it and he says, $2,000? I'll take it. Boy's eyes get really big, but he doesn't say a word. He reaches out and picks up the rock, and he heads home. Comes into his father, bursts through the door, just barely catching his breath, all excited, and he can't wait to tell his father. He says, "I could have sold this rock for $2,000. Did you know it was worth that much?" Father didn't answer, just looked at him and said, "Now, take it to," and then he told him where the store was. There was a collector that collect beautiful artifacts, rocks, gold, silver, whatever it may be. He collects things of great value. Has an eye for it, understands it, knows what he's doing with it, and turns around and sells it to people that desire to purchase something of great value. And as he walks in that door, this time with a lot of enthusiasm and expectation, wondering if it's possible that anybody could offer more than $2,000. He lays it on the counter. The man looks at the rock, looks at the lad, and looks back at the rock, sizes it up well, looks back at the young lad, and decides there's something more to this because this is such a valuable rock. Of all the minerals, the different things that it had, and he could tell it contained incredible value. And as he picks it up and looks at it, gently sets it back down and says, "Would you like to sell it? And if so, how much do you want for it?" Young lad picks up 2 fingers and just holds it there. Guy looks at him and says, 200,000, I will take it. The boy with a shaking hand reaches out and picks up the rock and leaves. Goes back to his father and tells him what happened. Then his father said, "Now you have learned the value and the lesson of life." Boy says, "What is it? Tell me." He said, "It depends on who you surround yourself with is when you discover your own value." He said, if you surround yourself with people that see no value in you, that's how you're going to be treated. But if you surround yourself with people that see great value in you, they're going to help you develop into that person. And the more value that these people see in you, the greater the opportunity that you have of developing yourself into that person. But you must be willing to do what it takes. One, you must be willing to present yourself to the people that see that type of value. And secondly, be willing to develop yourself and allow yourself to be developed. You see, this person that wanted to buy the rock last would have worked on the rock. He would have cut it. He would have chipped away at it. He would have done a lot to it to make it as incredibly beautiful and value as this rock has the potential of becoming. He would have done a lot to the rock. Kind of like a diamond. It begins as a hunk of coal, which you wouldn't even touch a hunk of coal with your bare hands, possibly. You know, you won't, especially if you're wearing a beautiful suit and a white shirt. You're not going to reach down and touch a hunk of coal. But I will tell you, you will touch a diamond with the most precious suit that you could possibly wear, a tuxedo or something. And this is why. That hunk of coal is dirty, filthy, nasty, black, cruddy. But if it gets put under a lot of pressure, it eventually turns to diamond. Then when it becomes diamond, it has a lot of value, but it's not ready yet. It must go to the smith, where the smith takes it and he begins to cut it. He begins to chip away at it. He begins to turn it into something magnificent and beautiful. Chips away the things that aren't needed there and gives it its shape and value that it needs and deserves. And as the smith works on it, this diamond becomes more and more and more and more valuable as time goes by, as he works on it. You see, that's us oftentimes. We start out as this perceivably hunk of coal with all the neurons, endorphins, and all the great things that a human body has, the brain, every aspect of it. But it seems to be just a hunk of coal. But then very gradually, as you develop yourself, you begin to change from that hunk of coal to something of greater significance and value. And ultimately, you are projecting value to many people around you, and suddenly others have a greater life, a better life because of you. You see, the diamond doesn't just become diamond. It must go through a process, lots of pressure. Any of you all felt pressured ever in your life? Of course you have. It goes through a lot of pressure. Lastly, connect yourself with people that see the value in you. With that being said, guys, make it a great day. As always, remember, don't settle for less than who you are. May God bless you.